The dust is beginning to settle on the 2023 legislative session now, as members of the House and Senate have wrapped up our business here at the Capitol and returned to our home districts. Hi, I'm Representative Roger Goodman, and in this Good Minute, we'll review some of the major legislation that we passed this session in Olympia, as well as highlights from our biennial budget. Before the session began, we conducted a survey of legislative members to determine our more pressing policy priorities, and the challenges of housing affordability and homelessness clearly rose to the top. Our state's housing supply is currently short by up to 250,000 units, and we will need to build 1 million more homes in the next 20 years to keep up with demand. The housing shortage, combined with skyrocketing rents, is driving increasing homelessness. This year, we took a number of steps to increase housing supply, to stabilize housing costs, and to support those unable to afford housing. First, we allocated a record $400 million for the Housing Trust Fund, which builds affordable housing. This includes $95 million to support rapid, permanent supportive housing, which allows people to immediately get off the streets. The capital budget also included another $170 million to help build shelters and affordable housing projects across the state. In our operating budget, we continue to fund emergency housing and rental assistance for families who are still dealing with the economic turmoil created by the pandemic. We also passed landmark legislation to increase the supply of what is called middle housing, including duplex and triplex homes, which are inherently more affordable than comparable new single-family homes. Diverse housing options will also slow urban sprawl and prevent deforestation, reduce pollution-causing traffic, and protect our watersheds. This new law increases this middle housing supply by requiring cities to allow more diverse housing options in residential neighborhoods. These changes will be focused on areas near major transit stops. We also passed legislation to ease barriers to construct what are called accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, which are some of the most affordable options we can add to our housing supply. The critical issue of women's healthcare choices has become even more contentious since last year's Dobbs decision by the U.S. Supreme Court imperiled reproductive freedom across the country. In response, this year we took important steps to strengthen reproductive rights and to protect Washington's medical professionals, including legislation to protect medical providers from disciplinary action for providing legal care in Washington state, a new SHIELD law to protect against other states' attempts to impose civil liability for providing legal care. In addition, the state will purchase and dispense as needed the medication mifepristone, a long-approved drug used for medical abortions. And we've also enacted a first-in-the-nation law to protect personal health information from being sold without consent. These measures will protect the independence and dignity of individuals when they make their own healthcare decisions in our state. Privacy and bodily autonomy are the rule of law, and our work will ensure that it stays that way. Another critical issue is the tragic and intensifying trend of mass shootings and gun violence in our country, which continues to devastate communities and rip at the fabric of our society. This year we took major steps to prevent needless gun violence, including legislation to ban the sale and distribution of assault weapons. These weapons of war are inappropriate for use in our civil society and have no place in our community, and are more likely than other guns to be used in mass shootings and dramatically increase the lethality of those mass shootings. We also passed a law that requires safety training and a 10-day waiting period to purchase a gun. Almost 2/3 of suicides in the United States are by gun, and this cooling off period will help prevent suicides and crimes of passion. Other major legislation that we passed included banning the use of toxic chemicals in cosmetics, prohibiting the use of those annoying robocalls and cracking down on solicitors who call numbers on the do not call list, and my seatmate, Representative Larry Springer's bill to improve preparedness to fight the wildfires that keep ravaging our forests each summer. Major highlights from our biennial budget include an increase of more than $2 billion in funding for our public schools, including more than $400 million for special education. It also includes funding to expand free school meals to an additional 90,000 Washington students. The budget also includes more than $1 billion in behavioral health investments, including $123 million for additional bed capacity and $115 million for opioid treatment. $1.8 billion is invested in long-term care and developmental disabilities, including increased home care worker rates to incentivize people to stay in this difficult profession. Finally, we will invest more than $500 million to help tackle homelessness, in addition to the capital investments in the Housing Trust Fund. Over $140 million will go directly into emergency housing and rental assistance to keep people in their homes. I serve as chair of the House Committee on Community Safety, Justice, and Reentry, with jurisdictions over matters of criminal law and public safety. This year, we passed legislation to support crime victims by promoting victim-centered practices in the legal system. For the first time, all prosecutors of sexual assault cases will be required to take trauma-informed training. We also enhanced protections for victims and survivors of domestic violence, ensuring that victims are not slipping through the cracks. We continued our work to bring missing and murdered Indigenous women home with the creation of a cold case unit in the Attorney General's office. We honored the memory of Sam Martinez, a student who died tragically in a college fraternity hazing incident, with the passage of Sam's Law, which raises the penalty for hazing if it leads to substantial bodily injury or death. We enacted an important sentencing reform measure this year, eliminating the consideration of past involvement in the juvenile justice system as the basis for a longer adult sentence. The brain science tells us that juveniles are more impulsive and subject to negative peer influences. And counting prior juvenile offenses in adult sentencing, practiced only in a very few states, has been one of the largest drivers of racial and ethnic disparities in sentences in Washington state. Finally, after calling in a special session of the legislature, we were able to pass a comprehensive measure to address the issues of drug possession and public drug use, putting in place a new comprehensive system for drug treatment and recovery. The bill we passed does continue to criminalize drug possession, so I'm quite wary of the adverse effects of punishing people who are already suffering from substance use disorders. But I hope that the recovery support system we put in place will expand low-barrier access to treatment as we provide massive new funding to help people get the treatment they need. With this new law, I hope we can keep people out of the criminal justice system and help them lead more productive and healthy lives. That's all for now. Thanks for watching, and thanks for the honor of serving you in the legislature.